You're listening to Good Girls Finish Broke, the podcast for successful single moms ready to rebel against the version of single motherhood built on struggle, sacrifice, and survival. Because broke isn't always a bank balance. Sometimes it's the cost of living a life shaped by other people's rules and opinions instead of the life you actually want. And that is why Good Girls Finish Broke. I'm Angela Lynn, psychology-trained coach helping single moms break out of survival patterns and create their rich life with more wealth, freedom, time, and energy. This podcast is about breaking cycles and rewriting what it means to be a single mom, because around here, single motherhood isn't the limitation, it's the catalyst. Welcome to the rebellion. Hey girl, welcome to the very first episode of Good Girls Finish Broke. To say that I am excited to bring you this show and these conversations is a massive understatement. This podcast has been living rent-free in my brain for 4, maybe 5 years now in different versions, and it's grown and it's developed and it's changed along the way, but I have also grown and developed and changed. And over those years, I've been hard on myself about, okay, so here's another idea that you've had that you're not following through on, or here's another way that you're not showing up for yourself. Isn't this the dream of yours? But what I know to be true in this moment right now is that it was always meant to be this version of me that brought these specific conversations into the world at this specific time. And it's all happening right on time. That doesn't mean that I haven't had to work through the discomfort of feeling like I'm letting myself down, but now, hindsight being 2020, this is what is meant to exist in the world. So I want to tell you a story about this past week for me leading up to launch, because I think it's such a beautiful illustration of why these conversations are so necessary, especially right now, especially for single moms, and how I've worked through it. So I'm going to start with the story, and then I'm going to end with some tips and some strategies to work through maybe potentially similar situations for yourself, maybe not necessarily related to launching a podcast, but other discomfort that might come up as we're stretching and growing into new versions of ourselves that require us to show up differently. So I'll start with the story. On June 1st, I woke up to a message from my graphic designer letting me know that she had completed the design for this podcast. Now, the first thought I had was, when should I launch? And before I could even finish that thought, the answer that my intuition dropped in was, how about June 10th? That's my 44th birthday. It's as good of a day as any, right? Like, to celebrate my 44th birthday by launching this podcast that has been a dream of mine for absolute years, with this version of me feeling more me than I've ever felt before. Yes, full body, yes, we're doing it. But then here comes my brain doing what brains do. And she's like, well, that's only 9 days away. We can't get this done in 9 days. We've never started a podcast before. You don't even have the full launch list. What are we going to do? Now, I know my brain is just doing her job, right? Like, she wants to keep me safe. Part of keeping me safe means keeping me consistent. There's predictability in consistency, right? And so she wants to keep me doing what I have been doing, keep the status quo going because it's more predictable. Now, I know for growth and development, I have got to stretch myself. Podcast is definitely stretching me. And with that has come a lot of nervous system regulation. I'm going to talk about that more here in a little bit. But I know that I can trust myself enough to manage whatever the new unknown outcome will be as a result of launching this podcast. So we're committed. It is all systems go. As I'm getting ready that morning, I hear the word launch party. Again, just quiet, like my intuition, not competing with the drama that my brain's creating around trying to launch a podcast in 9 days. Launch party. And I kind of just dismissed it. Now, I don't know anything about launch parties. I've never been to a launch party. I've never had a launch party. And so the thought, I recognized it, and then it came and it went. So I'm heading out the door to a place that I co-work at on Mondays. There's become kind of a home away from home, or an office away from the home office. And I'm telling the owner about the podcast. She has become a friend of mine over the times that I've been there co-working in her space. She's amazing. She's super supportive. And her response to me was, we should do a launch party. Immediately, goosebumps everywhere, you guys. Like, okay, universe, I see you. So this fleeting thought that I had that I didn't know what to do with, I just let it go, was reinforced to me through this conversation that I had with the gal at this shop. Now, I've not always followed my intuition. And in the times that I haven't, it has absolutely bit me in the butt. And the times that I have, it's never steered me wrong. And so, despite the fear, despite the drama that my brain is coming up with, I'm launching a podcast and I guess I'm having a launch party. How much fun is that? Now, as I'm going through and I'm building out my Instagram and the YouTube, I'm noticing that some of the graphics don't look exactly how I'd envisioned now against like the white background of those two platforms. And we have been working at this design for months now. I hired this company, I think back in January, and I'm pretty sure we probably all thought that we would have wrapped this project up by now, but I was dragging my feet. All of the things that came up, right? Like my nervous system feeling dysregulated as I'm getting closer to approaching this dream that I've had for actual years. And now I have built it up so big and it's almost here. The visibility hangover, it's not even a hangover, it's like a pre-hangover because I haven't done the thing yet, but I know it's requiring me to step out of my comfort zone. And also during this time, I had hired a coach to work on finalizing some details in my coaching packages to get more specific as I've really honed in on supporting single moms specifically. So that was taking a lot of my time and attention too. And so this project has just kind of drawn on, all because of me. But as I was uploading things on my socials and I noticed that it didn't look exactly how I wanted it to look, I knew that I needed to ask for another revision. And what that brought up inside of me was all of this guilt and shame and embarrassment. And oh my God, they're going to think that I am so high maintenance. And I bet they can't wait to get this project off of their table. It was a tightness in my chest. My throat felt a little bit tight. My hands were a little bit shaky. I was so concerned about how they would perceive me asking for another revision. And I thought about the times in my life where I hadn't asked for what I want. There's so many, like I couldn't even list them all. And I know as a recovering people pleaser that it's often these feelings that come up when we consider asking for exactly what it is that we want or placing boundaries around what we don't want, that it feels so uncomfortable. And we allow that discomfort to be the reason that we don't pursue what it is that we actually want. We have this uncomfortable physiological experience, and our brain says, oh no, fear, fear, fear. In order to stop this discomfort, we've got to stop doing whatever the thing is. And so we quit. Now, like I said, the graphics are great, they are good enough. But I know that in order to create the life that I'm obsessed with, my standard has to be higher than good enough. My standard has to be that I'm obsessed with it, that I love it, that it's actually exactly what it is that I want. And raising my standard to that level has been so uncomfortable, but I have to be grateful for every experience that I have that gives me a new opportunity to raise my standard to that level so that the life around me that I'm creating is reflecting back to me exactly what I want and not just good enough. So I sent the email asking for the revisions while allowing the guilt and the shame and the embarrassment to exist because these aren't problems to solve. They can be here, they can exist in my body while I'm still continuing to move forward and create the life that I'm obsessed with. So I sent the message. They could very well say no. And I trust myself enough to know that I'll be able to manage whatever that means. I have had numerous experiences in life, and especially as a single mom, that have required me to pivot and change direction. Single mom, something that I know about us is that we are world-class champions, Olympic gold medalists, even at a pivot. We know what it means to shift gears. We are experts at this, and I've got plenty of evidence to prove that to myself. So, send the message. The next morning, I woke up to a response. Revisions are being made. Everything is plugging along. And the relief was there. But what was more important, and I want you to see the distinction here, the win isn't that she said yes. Like, I'm grateful she said yes. I'm excited that she said yes. But the win is that I've become this woman who asks for exactly what she wants. I've become this woman who no longer lets my nervous system determine what my outer life experience gets to be. I get to feel the dysregulation and ask for exactly what I want anyways. And that's a massive, massive win, especially when you consider the conditioning that we've grown up in this society to be the good girl, to be low maintenance, to not need much, to put everyone else first, to put your desires last, right? This has been an unfolding over many years for me. And to get to this point, I'm so proud of myself. I'm not shrinking myself to make other people comfortable. Now, we often stop ourselves because of what we perceive the worst case scenario to be. Now, in this instance, what was the worst case scenario? You could have said no. And what then? I trust myself enough to know that I would have been able to respond to that situation too. I've been told no before. I've been disappointed before. Can I manage disappointment? Yeah. Can I manage embarrassment for asking for another revision? Absolutely. It's not the last time I'm going to be disappointed. It's not the last time I'm going to be embarrassed, but we allow our fear of whatever we perceive as the worst case scenario to be the reason that we don't make efforts at all in the first place. And that's a massive reason that good girls end up broke in time, money, energy, capacity, because we're building our life based on fear instead of the vision that we have for the life that we're obsessed with. I'm going to give you a few more examples of ways that we shrink ourselves to keep the peace that ends up taking us further and further away from the life that lights us up. And then I'm going to teach you how to offset this on your own. Have you ever been to a hair salon and the stylist didn't do your hair just exactly how you wanted, but it was good enough? And you were too embarrassed to ask for the correction, like it could have been fixed right there in that appointment, but you didn't say anything because you felt uncomfortable. You didn't want to hurt their feelings. You don't want to be seen as high maintenance. And so you leave the salon with a haircut that's good enough, but you're not obsessed with it. You don't love it. And so you say, oh, I'll find a new stylist, or we'll try again next time. And then you're walking around with this haircut that you don't really feel like you. Or maybe you got a sweater from your sister at Christmas and you don't really love it. It's not really your style, but you don't want to get rid of it. Like it was thoughtful and it was generous, but it's not your style. You're never going to wear it, but you hang on to it. So it just hangs there in your closet and you see it every day, but it's never going to get worn. But you feel bad at the thought of getting rid of it. Or maybe you go to get your nails done. Now, this is a personal favorite, lived experience for me. Go to get your nails done and you notice mistakes. Like maybe the paint doesn't come all the way to the end. Maybe they painted your cuticle a little bit. Maybe there's a bubble in, and your brain's like, well, I mean, the bubble's really tiny, right? Like, who could really see that but you? Nobody's really looking that closely. And so you let it go because it's good enough. But you're frustrated. You spent money going to get your nails done, and it should be good quality. If you're paying for a service, you should be pleased with the service, not just like it's sufficient, right? I remember getting up and leaving a tip. Girl, I wouldn't say a word because the nail had already cured. It would be too much work. I'd maybe make them late for their next appointment. I'd be seen as high maintenance. And I would leave with a set of nails that I wasn't super pleased with. And so I would walk around then spending, 60 to $100 on nails that I didn't love because it was sufficient. It was good enough. But when do we step into feeling as though we get to have better than that? We get to have more than that. And we don't need to feel shameful about it. We don't need to feel guilty for wanting it. And we also don't need to believe that myth that says if we want more, we must not feel grateful for what we have. I can feel immense gratitude for what I have in my life and still want to create more. There's absolutely nothing wrong with growth and wanting more from your life. So you've got a haircut you don't love, you've got a sweater in your closet you're never going to wear, you've got a fresh set of nails that you aren't pleased with. And before you know it, you look around and you realize that the life that you have and the life that you want are two totally different things because the standard that you have been making all of your decisions from has been good enough, sufficient. And good enough isn't bad. There's no value judgment there. Sufficient is sufficient. It's enough to meet the demands for the situation. But at what point do we allow ourselves to want more? At what point do we actually allow ourselves to create a vision for a life that we're obsessed with and allow that vision to be the lens through which we're making the decisions for our lives? The vision for that life is our North Star. But the discomfort that comes up when we start stepping into considering what it would mean to get it is what stops us. So let's work through some of that. The first thing that I want to talk to you about is in this good girl conditioning, identifying whether your desire is a true, authentic, aligned desire or if it's a conditioned desire. And the reason this is important is because good girl conditioning prioritizes harmony over authenticity. And in order to live a life that you're obsessed with, we want that to be authentic and in alignment with your vision. So the first thing I want to teach you is how to pull apart whether your desire is based in conditioning or based in authenticity. And there's a really simple way to do this. When you think about the desires and the vision that you have for your life, any statements that you could make that start with I should, like I should be doing, I should have, I should be. I want you to replace I should with I want. And I want you to pay attention to how that feels in your body. If one of your statements would be, I should have a podcast, and you replace that with I want a podcast, see how that feels in your body because your body is going to know right away if that's the truth or if it's a lie. You're going to physically feel whether you're leaning towards that or leaning away from that. So start there with replacing I should with I want. Now, the second strategy that you could use is called the 5 whys. When you think about why you want something, like say your desire is to have a tidy home. I want my home to be tidy and organized. Why? Well, because when I have company over, I want them to consider me a clean and tidy person. Why? Because I don't want them to judge me and think that I am less valuable or less worthy or that I'm a messy person. Why? Because I fear what they might think about me if they thought that I was a messy, disorganized person. Do you see at the end of that why? It's a fear-based response. This is about pleasing other people and not necessarily how you actually want to keep your home. Now, we could use that same example with a different outcome, right? I could say, I want a tidy, organized home. Why? Because I know for myself to feel calm and at peace, I want my environment that surrounds me to be calm and peaceful. Why? Because I get my best rest when I am feeling calm and peaceful, and rest is important to me. Why? Because I am in a busy season of life. I've got a lot going on, and I want my rest to be restorative so that I could be the best version of myself for myself and my kiddo. Do you see how the same example, the whys, led us to a totally different place? And that place was built in authenticity and alignment. My fear about what people might think of me as a result of a messy home isn't a authentic what you want for yourself. Do you see the difference there? Now, the next thing I want to take you through is a strategy for regulating your nervous system. Because as you start to create a new experience and you start to create a new life for yourself, your nervous system's going to hate it. She is going to be like, girl, what are you doing? This doesn't feel good. This feels scary. This is unpredictable. What is happening? Ah! And if you have seen the Inside Out movies, the Disney movies, what I picture for myself is fear, the little slender purple guy. That is who I picture running around in my brain, which is actually helpful. It actually lightens it up a little bit for me when I'm having a fear response, but I want to help you work through that. So, for the nervous system regulation to manage the guilt that you might be having, the fear, the embarrassment as you step into asking more for what you want, I want to teach you a strategy that my therapist taught me called RAIN. The R is recognize. I want to recognize what's happening inside my mind, what the negative self-talk or the drama that's happening up there. I also want to recognize what's happening in my body. Now, the A, allow. I want to allow this experience to happen. This isn't a problem to solve. It's super valuable information, and I don't need to fix anything. So we're just going to allow the experience to exist as it is. The next one is inquire. I want you to inquire of yourself. We're going to nurture ourselves here. We're going to show ourselves care and compassion, and we're going to inquire, what do I need from myself right now? And sometimes you will feel these sensations in different points in your body. I know for me, coming up to this podcast launch, I felt a lot of tightness in my chest. And so what I would do is I would sit with that. I'm recognizing it, I'm allowing it, and I'm just sitting with it. Now I'm inquiring, like, what do you need from me? Because at the end of the day, we have this part of us that is feeling really fearful. A lot of times that goes back, and we'll talk more about this in future episodes. This goes back to who you were in your development stages at like 5, 6, 7 years old. And a lot of who we were at that time, we bring with us as adults. That version of us makes a lot of decisions about our lives, mostly from a place of avoiding fear. So we're going to just inquire. What does it need? Maybe it needs a few deep breaths. Maybe it just wants reassurance. Maybe it just wants to know that everything's going to be okay. And so you can talk to it. And it might feel weird at first, but really, you're just giving yourself what you need in that moment instead of just trying to brush past it. We've been taught by society that big feelings are wrong, especially the feelings that we consider negative, right? Like fear, anxiety, disappointment, overwhelm. And so we try to avoid them at all costs. Being with them feels really foreign, and especially talking to them could feel even more foreign. But I want you to give it a try. Like, what do you need from me right now? And it might just need you to take a moment, right? Like, put your hand on your heart or the place that you're feeling the tension. Maybe it's in your throat, maybe it's your shoulders, and just be there. For myself, in this podcast launch, my fear and my anxiety and my uncertainty has been bubbling up and feeling like a tightness in my chest. So I would just sit here. I'm just going to be with the tightness. I can feel it in my shoulders. So maybe it needs one of these. Maybe it needs a little stretch. But the N is nurture. So we're going to ask ourselves what we need in the moment, and then we're going to nurture ourselves and give ourselves that. I've got the time to stretch. I've got the time to be present with myself. This is what I need right now. And this is what I need to do to allow the experiencing the emotions to be here, to let them dissipate a little bit so that I can move forward. The recognizing, the allowing, the inquiring, and the nurturing is all part of this process that's going to help you create safety for your nervous system around acting, doing, behaving in a new way. Because if there's space between the life that you're living and the life that you're obsessed with, it's going to require you to show up differently to get to this version. You're going to become a different version of yourself through the process, and you're going to need to nurture yourself along the way. So this has been a snippet of what my week has been like. There's been lots of nervous system regulation. There's been lots of allowing these thoughts and these feelings to exist while still moving through the process anyway, because I know this is what's required of me in this version of my life and the life that I want to create. I would love to know when you try these strategies and how they're working for you. If there's other areas of single motherhood that you're finding particularly challenging, I'd love for you to reach out to tell me those too, so I can create an episode about it. And if you found this helpful, I would love if you'd leave a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast. This helps me get these conversations in front of new people. As always, thank you for being here. I am so proud of you, and I love you so much. Bye for now.